All right, Scott Mitchell here with It's My Game Speaker Highlights. Today, we're talking with Simon Gale, the Director of Tennis here at the USTA National Campus here in the United States. Simon, welcome.
Thanks, Scott. Nice to be here.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your role and your immediate focus for you and your team over these next few months.
So I just took on the job here as Director of Tennis at the campus in Orlando. I literally started right at the end of February, start of March, and had 1 week here before we went into lockdown for coronavirus. So I've spent 3 months trying to build a team and a relationship virtually, and have just reopened the doors about 2 weeks ago, and started with a real slow release of programming. We started with some privates, introduced adult programs next, and then junior programs will be starting next week, actually. We've had to adapt considerably, and how we deliver ratios and so on. And our short-term goal is to just create an environment where our customers feel like we're presenting tennis in a safe way, and they're comfortable coming and then continuing to come so that we can build our business back up.
It's going to take you some time. I know it's different for everybody. You know, you're doing a lot of stuff virtually, probably a lot of meetings, a lot of contacts, and so forth. And this conference is just that. It's a one-of-a-kind conference where everything's going to be virtual. People don't have to travel anywhere. Tell me a little bit about what makes this conference special and why people should tune in and register.
I think one of the things that we all learn, especially if you work in a team, is that you can achieve a lot through these Zoom meetings, Google Hangouts, and virtual connection. And I think we've had, I have a team of 30 teaching pros plus operations team, so call us a team of around 40 people. We've managed to stay connected, review how we do business, plan for the future, and come up with some systems that we think will benefit us moving forward, all virtually. So I think prior to this, you would never have said this is something you could achieve. Could you have a conference that would create relationships and pass on information in a meaningful way virtually? I would have said, no, I don't think you could do that without doing a one-on-one consultation or something along those lines. So I think we've all learned a lot about what we can do. And I do believe our ability to do this will impact how we deliver tennis moving forward. For example, can you consider adding virtual parent meetings to your programming and add value to your program by adding things like a virtual monthly meeting to discuss our Red Ball program, and Red parents can come and they can do it from home while the kids are doing homework, and mom and dad get a quick 15-minute update versus needing to physically come to the facility, which is difficult. So I think this conference will help enable those sort of thoughts as programmers going forward, and will only benefit us.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time for sure. And I know you're presenting while you're there. You're going to build a presentation for us. And I think the title, Leading from Within, you've got a lot of experience building teams, making sure people are on the right seats of the bus, and leading to success. Tell us a little bit about your presentation and what people can expect.
I've done presentations on this topic in the past, and I think there's some basic principles that we should all follow with building teams, but I do think there's a lot of guidelines out there and things you can do that look good on paper. At the end of the day, it's about building relationships and individual relationships and understanding how your team functions. And you just said it, do we have the right people, A, on the bus, and B, in the right seats? And I think you can only work that out by really developing close relationships with the individuals in your team. If you have a small team, fairly easy to do. The larger the team, more difficult that is, and you need to rely on the leaders within your group to maybe help you navigate that. But I think finding ways to connect with your team would be my biggest theme, and that will be the angle I'll be coming from. And I think, there's nothing more important than having that one team mentality, and we're all working towards a common goal. So I think establishing philosophies and visions and all those key words that we all use, do you really have them in place so that your team knows where you're headed as well?
Right. Yeah, that's important for sure. Now I know you're at a extremely large facility, 100 courts, lots going on. When we think about growing our game, or specifically with the kids, and tennis providers around the world, because this is going to be an international conference, so we're not only talking about those that are here in the United States, but how do we see, as a provider, getting more kids involved in our game, playing our sport?
I don't think there's a magic formula. I think it's understanding what your community is looking for. Are you really connected to the local community, and understand what's out there? What are you competing with, and how do people view your sport? And are we getting messaging out there? I think one of the things that I've seen, even down here, with something as big as the USTA, I think our presence in the community is something we need to focus on. And are we really getting messaging out there to the locals that this is a great sport for your children? I think we all know it. And this 3 months shut down, you only had to be on social media to see all the talk and the hype about, we have an opportunity, we can achieve this, we fit the criteria for social or physical distancing. You check off all the boxes. That there's something circulating out there from the doctors in Michigan saying we're a 1 out of 10 risk factor.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. We have all these theories and we talk about it, but are we really getting the message out as a sport to sell that to parents? Why tennis? Why the national campus in my case, or why your facility? What are you doing that makes you appealing? The sport has these things naturally built in, but we've got to get messaging out that connects us to the community and enables people to come and try tennis. So one of the things I would look at is, how do we introduce people to tennis? Are we really doing a good job, or are you doing a good job at your facility to introduce tennis to people? What's the pathway for a beginner? Take a serious look at that, and how are we introducing it to somebody who walks in the doors the first time? And if you were that person, does it make you want to continue? I think that's key, because I think we're going to get a lot of interest naturally. But if we're bringing people in the door, we can't fall short with our delivery when they first come in. So I think those sort of things are critical for our success going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've got a golden opportunity here if we capitalize on it. So expand a little bit on what you just said. So if you're at a club, or there's a director of tennis at a club, and he's really wanting to bring more kids into playing tennis at his club, where do you think he should focus? Is it more on trying to get the academy kids, the high school kids, or is it more, I think you mentioned a little bit, of really thinking about bringing in the beginners? Is the beginner player, adult and junior, the lowest hanging fruit for most of us?
I personally believe so. I think we keep saying the word opportunity, but I think the next 6 months, or it could be longer, who knows how long this is going to continue. But the next 6 months is a tremendous opportunity, as other sports are maybe struggling to rebuild or even get started again because of the distancing issues and the contact involved. And I've always believed we're the ultimate non-contact sport, even prior to this, with all the research on head injuries and issues that parents have with their children competing in some of these other sports. Do we really sell the benefits and the lack of injuries and all the things that can be achieved by playing tennis? So I'm personally going to be going after the introductory player, juniors and adults. But in the junior space, I think having some sort of well-established try tennis or intro to tennis pathway. It's fine to have a program, but is there a short-term try tennis type program that's very affordable, gets kids in the door, because I'm a big believer in if we can get that 5, 6, 7-year-old in, there's a sibling connected to that child, as well as mum and dad who might, spike their curiosity to trying tennis as well. So I'd rather go after a family of 3 or 4 try tennis people than one good player if I was trying to build a business. And I think if you can connect with your community, which would involve schools and maybe some alliance with other sporting organizations where you could get some cross-selling going, any opportunity to just drive that message. But I think there's a thought process, and our theme going forward here at the campus is going to be getting back to basics and really focusing on the delivery, amazing delivery of our sport. First-class communication, great customer service, and number one is just being amazing tennis ambassadors. Are we selling our sport, or are we standing with our hand out waiting for people to come to us? Retention becomes important. Can we get them in the door and then get them to keep coming? So it's a combination of things, but I think the junior space and the introductory player would definitely be number one focus.
Yep, I agree. So last question. What do you see as probably the one takeaway from pros joining this conference? Why is this conference so special and unique, and why should they register? August 14th to the 23rd is when we host it, but what do you see that one takeaway for the coaches?
That's a good question. You put me on the spot there. I would say one of the things that makes this unique is that generally our conferences, if there's some foreign coaches who live here, for me example, we can be a part of a conference like that when we're physically at a place. But the ability to, from what I see for the speakers list and so on, is this becomes a global conference.
Yep.
And you are getting a global view of what's going on, and it's not biased towards what's happening in America. The whole world's been affected differently, and how are they coming out of it? How have they handled it? How are they promoting their sport, both nationally and locally? And what are these great minds of the sport around the world doing collectively to grow our sport or reposition it, or just get the doors open again?
Right.
What are we all doing? So I'm fascinated to hear what someone in a different part of the world is doing. So I think that would be a huge takeaway for me. I'm interested in that versus hearing what all the pros in America are doing. So I think that would be a huge takeaway, and the opportunity to unite those tennis minds in a virtual conference. I think it's exciting. So if I wasn't speaking, I would be signing up to listen to some of these speakers myself, because there's names on those lists that personally I don't know, and I'm curious to talk to or listen to somebody new versus listening to people that bring a lot of great perspective, but maybe we've heard over and over before. So I think there's some tremendous opportunity to take away.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Over 20 speakers, from around the world, over 40 hours worth of content. I mean, it's going to be amazing. It's one of a kind, like we'd said. So, Simon, I know you're busy, and I appreciate your time coming on with It's My Game speaker highlights, and best of luck to you, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate the time and look forward to presenting.